Boom. What is up everyone? Wolf Manga here, back at you with another new manga video, and what I have in store for you today is going to be a little bit of a change of pace. Rather than doing like a vlog or a haul or a collection video, I'm going to be doing my very first review video on a manga, and that is going to be the Golden Age arc of Berserk by Kentaro Miura. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, but for those that are unfamiliar, this is regarded as one of the most legendary and brilliant pieces of fiction in manga history. Now, this arc covers the origin of Guts, the origin of the Band of the Hawk, and essentially delineates, how this really messed up world and set of circumstances came to be at the beginning of the first few volumes, namely the Black Swordsman arc. But that said, I am going to do my best to kind of convey my thoughts and opinions, and on top of that, I should note that this is not going to be like an in-depth summary of the Berserk Golden Age arc, simply because, I'm sure there's a ton of videos already out there on that, but rather, having experienced this arc for the very first time in my life, I want this video to be more on the side of just me talking about my thoughts, my opinions, addressing certain plot points and themes, what I liked about it, and so on and so forth. In this first portion of the video, I do not intend for there to be any spoilers. However, later on in this video, there is going to be a spoilers section for discussion, and at that time, I will definitely explicitly note when that segment of the video will begin, just to give you a fair warning. Spoilers are starting now, and stuff like that. And so yeah, guys, really quickly before we get started, if you haven't already done so, please make sure to follow me on all my other social media platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you are interested in buying manga from Right Stuff Anime today, please use my affiliate link down below in the description box at no extra cost to you. It helps support the channel and helps me create more content just like this video and more. So that is that, guys. Without further ado, let's get right into this Berserk Golden Age arc review. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and begin the no spoiler section right now. Oh my god, guys. I seriously don't even know where to begin. I have a general direction of where I want to take this video, but there are so many different talking points about the Berserk Golden Age arc. It's honestly kind of insane. Alright, so first and foremost, guys, I just wanted to say that I highly recommend reading the Berserk Golden Age arc. I believe it covers volumes 3 through 14 of the Berserk series. But, and this is a big but here, that's if you can handle it. That said, I'm putting a massive disclaimer to you guys right now. This is not a series for everyone. The Berserk Golden Age arc has some of the most graphic, violent, dark, twisted, and tragic material I've ever seen in a form of media, and if that's kind of a turnoff for you, then you honestly really should not read it. This is an arc that shows absolutely no mercy to the eye and conveying really dark and sensitive subject matters like sexual abuse, rape, warfare, violence, torture, and the lot. Now, in the defense of the creator, these are more so strategies to really kind of build up hatred towards your respective antagonists, and also to give a lot of weight to the scenarios and situations that we're in. But, I can 100% understand, if this is too much for you, hell, it's very disturbing. I was disturbed by a lot of it. I would definitely take this into consideration before starting, and if those are all turnoffs for you in terms of a storytelling aspect, then you really shouldn't read it. But the way I see it personally, looking at this work as a whole, and just bearing witness to the absolutely insane character development, masterful storytelling, I felt that this arc was a masterpiece. I personally give it a 10 out of 10. But like I said, this is not an arc, nor a series at that, for everyone. And so when we first begin the series, in the Black Swordsman arc, which is the arc right before the Golden Age, everything seems a little overwhelming, right? We start off in the present, we're introduced to Guts, our Black Swordsman character, and there's not a lot of context to the situation. You don't really know what's going on. All you're really seeing is a lot of violence, brutally gory scenes, and stuff like that. And right from the get-go, you kind of sense this aura of mystery around Guts. You start to question what is his backstory, why is he, as ruthless, merciless, and kind of a dick at the beginning. And so in the back of your head, you kind of figure that this guy probably had a really freaking tragic backstory. Something happened along the line that contributed to his current state of being. And so after you finally start posing these questions to yourself at the end of the Black Swordsman arc, then enters the Golden Age arc. And so first off, I wanted to note that the Golden Age arc of Berserk has some of the most exquisite character building and character development I've seen in fiction. Starting from zero, Kentaro Miura throws you into this hell-like world where you slowly and gradually learn to either really love certain characters, or just absolutely, truly hate and despise others. And at some points, and for those who have read, you'll understand that Miura also has no fear in throwing pivots at you and making you hate characters that you once loved and love characters that maybe once irritated you. These characters are so well fleshed out, they're dynamic, they're multi-dimensional, and although they're not real, they're the type of characters that can get as close to being real as possible. We see how these characters are flawed as human beings. We see their strengths and their pitfalls. They have great moments and really bad ones too. They're constantly changing and adapting to their environments, and as I mentioned, they're as close to being real as possible. Not to mention, guys, this arc, and just the series in general, has some of the most intricately crafted and well-detailed artwork I have ever had the privilege of witnessing. The level of detail is seriously just enough to put you in a trance, and it just gets progressively better and better as the series continues. It's like every single panel and every single segment of the panel is like its own artistic entity. You know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, guys, but this is seriously some of the best artwork in manga that I have seen to date. And what's really great about this artwork, although, you know, some of it is really disturbing, gory, bloody, and just, you know, it's hard to look at times. Although that's in there, although that's a part of it, the violence, the gore, and just the messed up situations and scenarios like that, they're not there just for the sake of this being a tragic story. Every single torture scene, every single war scene, every single disturbing scene and stuff like that has weight to it. There is a purpose in mind for every single one of these events and details, whether that's to increase the stakes, you know, advance the seriousness of the situation, or really build up hatred towards a given character, antagonist, and so forth. All right, so now, guys, we are going to get into the spoiler section of this video. I repeat, we are now entering the spoiler section of the video, and if you haven't read this arc already, you seriously need to get the hell out of here, man. I need those watch hours, but, you know, not at the expense of you missing out on the Golden Age arc experience. Like, this is something you need to go into without any spoilers. I mean, obviously, you know it's going to be tragic. There's going to be some messed up, you know, crap going on, but you really need to go into it with a more or less just blank slate, but in the back of your mind prepared for some, you know, really tragic and disturbing material, of course. Essentially, you just need to not know the specifics going into it in order to get the best effect for you and just the best experience. And if you guys do happen to have the money for it, I personally recommend getting the deluxe volumes for this type of series. You know, get comfy on your bed, sit upright in comfortable position, get some pillows and whatnot. You know, slap on your headphones, put a little lo-fi beats or anime instrumental music on, crack open this really aesthetically pleasing and just nice feeling hardback book, and you just go to town. You just read, you just enjoy it, and quite honestly, with the Berserk Deluxe, seeing these really large panels in front of you with the music playing if you're listening to music, and just really immersing yourself in this fictional world, quite honestly, it's like you're watching a movie. And for me, I think the experience is best done with this deluxe edition, but simply my opinion, you can always just read the singles or read online, but I typically prefer not to read online for a variety of reasons. So anyways, guys, that is that. I am going to head into the spoiler section right now. Again, this is your final warning, spoiler section right now in 3, 2, 1. First thing I wanted to talk about, some of the really dark stuff that happened in this. Okay, so I don't even know where to begin with this. I guess I'll just start from Guts' birth, his origin. Guts was born from a corpse, guys. Something tragic like that happening to someone in real life or in fiction. It's something I never really gave thought to. And we're introduced to that like almost right at the get-go of the Golden Age arc. And I just thought that was so dark. And to me, in my mind, you know, that alone kind of distinguishes this, you know, manga from others and this story from others. Something dark like that happening right at the get-go of his life. When this mercenary band finds Guts, you know, as a newborn, this really traumatized woman, you know, traumatized from having recently lost her child to miscarriage, takes Guts in to more or less fill that void in her heart. And we see how really protective over him that she becomes. And I'm not going to pretend like I fully understand that kind of trauma and pain that someone might go through, but just overall, it was really sad for me. You know, it was sad, tragic. It was a dark, you know, beginning for me. So. And you know, when that woman dies, you know, Gambino, kind of the head of that mercenary band, he essentially blames Guts for her death, and he holds this grudge against him, and he eventually sells him out to that, I think, Donovan guy, and you guys know what I'm talking about when I say he sells him out. That was so freaking messed up, so dark, so tragic. He is the epitome of a scumbag cockroach of a human being. And to be quite honest, at first, Gambino's, he's not the best of people. He's not a great guy. But at the very least, you kind of see him more or less as this really aggressive, stern, somewhat caring father figure towards Guts. And keyword is somewhat. But when that shiz happened, that was one of, if not the most ultimate form of betrayal. The only reason I say one of is because, some other things happen later on down the line in terms of betrayal, but that was such a backstabbing, just terrible, disgusting, disturbing move on his part. And, I cannot say enough bad things about Gambino. And what's so sad about this is, if you think about it, Guts really had no one else to guide him in life. And to see his own more or less father figure, that one person, he had in life, betray him in such a terrible manner, it would become something that would forever traumatize him and drastically impact the trajectory of his life. And then after that, when Gambino got drunk that one night and he tried to kill Guts, Guts had to defend himself and kill that one person in his life that sort of mattered to him. And so now at that point, he's left all alone. There's nothing in this world that matters to him other than fighting, killing. It's more or less a survival of the fittest instinct. He knew nothing of love, of passion, of dreams. All he knew how to do was kill and wield a sword. Then enters the Band of the Hawks, the mercenary group that ultimately picks up Guts after, his initial resentment and resistance toward them. In particular, what I really love is how they set up Guts as this really lost soul and character in this dark and lonely world. The only thing he really knows how to do is fight, and even Griffith proved to be slightly more superior than him at that. And from then on, we see how Guts grows from this really pitiful state of being into becoming, the captain of the Raiders, and just always kind of chasing after Griffith, whom he inevitably came to admire a whole lot and become more or less friends with him. And on top of that, these characters are so well fleshed out, and just gradually over this arc, you kind of learn to fall in love with a lot of them, be it, Judeo, Rickert, Pippin, or Casca, especially Casca. And additionally, even at the time, Griffith himself is this really cherished and admirable character. He's confident, majestic, stoic, and just an absolutely brilliant tactician and leader. And to me, it was just really fascinating to see the Band of the Hawks start off as this just really small, low-profile mercenary band and gradually grow to become its own military might as Griffith slowly expanded his political influence through his achievements and connections. I think one of the most defining moments of this arc is when Guts was overhearing Griffith's speech to the Princess of Midland. It was a conversation about dreams and friendship, and he stated that essentially a friend to him is someone who lives for themselves and has their own reasons to live. They don't need to depend on the dream of another, and they would trample on anyone that stood in their way. And above all, Griffith stated that a friend to him is someone that is his equal. And this is something that just really resonated with Guts. I remember seeing it, witnessing his reaction and expression, and I knew this was a critical moment in Guts' character development. And quite honestly, just rethinking about this just gives me chills. Guts spent his whole life fighting for the sake of fighting because he didn't know anything else. But it truly made him question, what is his purpose in life? What is the meaning of his efforts? And at the end of the day, is he just another sheep in the crowd? And it was that critical moment that led to his final decision to ultimately leave the Hawks in pursuit of a dream of his own. And I thought the final duel between Guts and Griffith was one of the most powerful scenes in the Golden Age arc Berserk because it was symbolic of Guts' growth, finally making decisions for himself in life, and that he ultimately wants to move beyond just fighting for the sake of fighting, and that he does want to pursue a dream of his own, which is one of the best indicators of character development in that arc for him. As we all know, guys, Griffith goes a little nuts after Guts leaves the Band of the Hawks. Everything just goes downhill for him and the band itself. The king has him tortured mercilessly and ruthlessly. The Band of the Hawks is now an enemy of the state. And on top of it all, Griffith soon becomes a shell of a former man. And it was honestly kind of heartbreaking because he was this once great, majestic, stoic, brilliant leader. and to see him crumble like this was truly heartbreaking, I thought. And so before we touch on other points, I do want to talk about one of my favorite characters of this series so far, and that is going to be Casca. So before in this video, I think I mentioned I called her Casca. I just looked it up in a brief recording break. It's pronounced Casca, I believe, so I apologize for that. Moving forward, I'll pronounce it as Casca, but for any reason, even if that's wrong, just feel free to correct me. So it is what it is, Casca. And so Casca is one of my most favorite characters in the series, but at the same time, you know, she's one of the most tragic characters of the series too. She's a really good fighter, you know, maybe not Guts Griffith level, but you know, she can handle herself for sure. On top of that, she's a capable leader. And what I really liked about the dynamic of her within the band is that all the members essentially called her Big Sis. And to me, in this really, you know, dark, patriarchal, misogynistic, just messed up world, it was a little bit of a silver lining to me personally, in that a woman got the respect and acknowledgement that, you know, she deserved. It was nice to know that she got that recognition and acknowledgement. That's just the way I saw it. You know, we see how Griffith kind of took her in from this really crappy situation of being, I think, sold into slavery or sold into servitude or something like that. And from a very young age, she just kind of gradually grew to admire him and just devote herself to him and his dream. In the sense, she vows to become Griffith's sword in pursuit of that dream. But what was really interesting to me is that what really shook up this devotion, what really shook up this attachment to this dream of his, for Casca that is, was the arrival of Guts in the Band of the Hawk. And at first we see how, you know, Casca just absolutely detests, absolutely loathes Guts because he's basically like the polar opposite of Griffith. He's reckless, lacks ambition, doesn't have a dream, is very uncouth, if you will, and ultimately she perceives him as a sort of threat to Griffith's dream. But even more important than that, and what really reflects on her character at the time, is that in her heart, what really bothered her about Guts was his ever-growing importance to Griffith. In a sense, she was jealous of this superseding importance. And as she continued to be reminded of this importance, she was forced to gradually kind of recognize and realize how unrequited her feelings toward Griffith were. And one of my most favorite parts about this is as she gradually does come to this realization, she slowly, you know, starts to develop affection for Guts as she gradually detaches herself from Griffith's dream. In effect, being able to grow beyond this and live more for herself. And I know romance isn't really one of the central themes of the story, but I really like the ship of Guts and Casca, because despite their initial hot-headed clashes, they gradually grow to fall in love with each other for reasons of, you know, mutual respect and mutual honesty. Brought up by tragic circumstances and slowly growing to understand one another, they were bound by this red thread of fate. They grow to accept one another, they grow to listen to one another, and they're able to be around one another even in their most vulnerable states. And this relationship build-up to me was a real silver lining in the grand scheme of this entire tragic story. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Oh my god, I can't even right now. Then Miura decides to pull some stuff on us, and the eclipse happens. I'm not gonna lie here, I predicted that Casca was going to be outright killed off. I thought that, you know, Guts is the way he was at the beginning of the Black Swordsman arc, you know, bitter and resentful towards the world, because the love of his life was probably killed off, and it probably had to do with Griffith. And so I wasn't entirely wrong, but I wasn't right. Because the fact of the matter is that Casca did not die physically. It was just so disturbing. You guys know the scene I'm talking about with Griffith and Casca. I've been watching some review videos on this, and a lot of people were saying, like, nobody ever wishes someone to die, usually, right? But they would have preferred that Casca actually died to what actually happened to her. And, you know, I don't necessarily disagree with that. And I feel reluctant saying that, but, like, if you look at the alternative, it's just really messed up. I made a full-on, like, TikTok reaction to it.
Full Metal Alchemist! Full Metal Alchemist.
And like an Instagram story reaction to it. As if the Eclipse wasn't just heartbreaking enough in that, you know, we witnessed the brutal slaughter of all these cherishable characters that we grew to love in the past like 9 or 10 volumes. On top of it all, this stuff happens to Casca. And because of this trauma, she ultimately becomes kind of mute and she's reduced to this infantile-like state. She represses all of her memories, and later on, she even, you know, gives birth to that, you know, that spawn thing, you know what I'm talking about. Like I said, guys, this was just really it was gory, very graphic, really dark, and some of the most heartbreaking material that I've seen. Man, it's crazy. And so before we get into some final thoughts, guys, I just wanted to make a list of some honorable, or rather dishonorable, mentions of just some of the most, you know, absolutely detestable, deplorable, disgusting, pathetic, douchiest, bastard a-hole characters that could possibly exist. And I guess I'm just gonna start off by saying the King of Midland. You, sir, and everybody knows what I'm talking about when I'm referencing this, you, sir, are an absolutely deplorable, detestable, inhuman, disgusting, pathetic excuse of a man, and just, you're disgusting. Griffith's torturer, you are a maggot of a human being, if you're even a human being, and you deserve every bit of pain that you got in the end. The leader of the Black Dog Knights, I think it was Wald or Riald or something like that, you're just a monster. Yuck. And lastly, Griffith, you abandoned your friends and your humanity. You, sir, as Kakashi would put it, are worse than scum. Alright guys, and with that out of the way, let's get into some final thoughts. All in all, if I had to pick any one most important theme of the Golden Age arc, it would have to be this idea of dreams, the price of achieving them, and what it truly means to live a purposeful life. This arc desperately asks us to reevaluate the way we live our lives. Those that meander without ever pursuing a dream of their own tend to cling on to those of others. And this is a safe bet for some, but it's ultimately rooted in mediocrity and is lacking in a purposeful life. When Guts at last comes to this realization, he decides to pursue a dream of his own. While there's nothing wrong in pursuing one's dreams, Kentaro Miura's masterful storytelling heeds a blistering warning. Do not lose sight of what is most important in life in the process. In the end, Griffith's corrupted self sacrifices everyone and abandons his humanity to achieve his dream. Guts himself even abandons Casca, the one person in the world he values more than anything. Also, he could set out to kill Griffith. Berserk is an epic, glorious, yet dark and tragic story. But at its core, the Golden Age arc serves as a cautionary tale that addresses the importance and risks of pursuing one's dream. And by the end of it, it'll have you asking yourself, am I truly living a purposeful life? If I do have a dream, what is the price I'm willing to pay? And at the end of the day, what does it truly mean to be human? And what do I value most in life? And so that is all I have to say today about the Berserk Golden Age arc by Kentaro Miura. One of my main goals with this video is to just kind of get you guys thinking on these subjects, asking yourselves these questions, provoking some discussions and stuff like that. And if you do have any thoughts of your own, any opinions, any extra comments, feel free to leave them down below in the comments section. I'm eager to engage in discussion with you guys, talk about this series and more, hear your recommendations, and so on and so forth. So I certainly hope you guys got something out of today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did happen to like this video, please smash that like button, comment down below if you have any comments or questions, hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel, turn on post notifications, and as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
"僕たちの声が世界